now the new Veterans Affairs Committee Chair here for Vassar. And we want to see if we can kind of strengthen this program up and get it, because taking care of veterans is more important. One thing about this stuff, it's like the Stark Award and the part of the Patriotism, all this stuff does, it measures how well we are doing things to meet the goals that the the NASR sets out for us to do. And we all sign up for like that. So first thing I want to talk about is the Partners in Patriotism. Those of you who don't know it, and most of you might know a lot of the stuff we do, and if you do, fine, we'll just go through it real quick. Partners in Patriotism. Do an event with another veteran type organization, VFW, AMVETS, American Legion, like that, and you get recognized for Partners in Patriotism. That goes from 1 June to 31 May. And the report has to be in by the 15th of June at national. And in the past, we haven't really pushed that here at the state level, but what we're going to do is I'm going to start asking the guys to send me, at least send me a copy of it so we can start tracking to see where do we need to kind of go to pick up on this. And you only have to do one event. It's not like you got to do a whole bunch of them in a year. So if you just go to a 4th of July parade and the American Legion's in it, you've met the requirements. Fill out the form, you get a streamer for being Partners in Patriotism. Do something with the VA, do something with the VFW, anything like that. And that's what the Partners in Patriotism is. It's trying to get the SAR working with veteran type organizations. The Veterans Multi-Corps Recognition Form. I don't know if you guys are aware. Is everybody here aware of the Multi-Corps? What that is, if you serve in the military, at NASR, they have this, what they call multi-corps, and you send in this form, they'll send you a certificate. It's a way of them keeping track of the veterans that are within the SAR.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty neat thing to do. Very few people take advantage of it like they could, but it's a good program. It doesn't take much. All you have to do is fill out the form, send a copy with your DD-214, boom. Of course, now when you do your DD-214, you make sure you redact stuff on it. And the guidelines that are on the computer there, they're really thorough about how to do that. And you send it in, the next thing you know, you get a little thing in the mail that says, hey, happy day, you are now a member of the multi-service corps. It's just a way of keeping up with our veterans. And that's one thing we don't want to lose sight of. We don't want to lose sight of taking care of the veterans that are our compatriots too, in our various chapters. That's why I put in there about the war and the military service medals. Make sure everybody in your chapters got their medals. There's one part there that we found out about this year that we weren't really up on, Korea. If you served in Korea at any time since the Korean War started, then you are eligible for the War Service Medal. Doesn't have to be in that time frame when the actual conflict was on. If you served there last year, you are eligible for the War Service Medal.
That's because it's only a ceasefire.
That's exactly right, because it's a ceasefire, so it is considered still the War Service Medal. So if you've already had a lot of them out in the chapter, then you can go back and say, hey, if people that were in Korea, we get to change yours and upgrade it to the War. Well, I don't know if you want to call it upgrade, because according to NASR, both of them have a priority, a precedence of 4. But you get the War Service Medal if you were in Korea. That's the one change a lot of people don't know about. Okay, now we can get down to the start. Now this is the one that we like to put a show on. Because as you heard in there today, 2 years in a row, we're the top dogs in our chapter size in the country. And the biggest single reason that we are there is because we have more people involved. It's not just one person in the chapter doing it. We get everybody. When I first got involved with the veterans in our chapter, we had like 4 guys taking their veteran points and pushing them on to the veterans up there at the committee guy. Last year I had 27. That's what it takes, getting everybody involved. Not everybody has to do a bunch. We have a handful of us there. I got these programs that I treat. Would you like to say something to them?
It's your convenience, sir. Whatever, is this a good time to interrupt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Didn't seem so, but I wouldn't. Guys, this is important. It is a good way for your chapter to recognize people who need to be recognized and also receive credit for having done so. There's a lot of little ins and outs, and you need one of 2 things. You need a Dale Corey that's going to bore into it and figure it all out.
Cloning starts at 3 o'clock.
Dale Corey. And he's going to tell you a lot that you're going to find useful for furthering these programs in your chapter. So I encourage you to listen. I encourage you to adopt some of the things he's going to tell you, and I strongly encourage you to get his telephone.
Telephone, email, you're always welcome to contact me. I'm willing to come out and help at any time. Charles had me come down to Culpeper, and I gave a presentation to their chapter about it. Sir.
Look, I'm not a sir, I'm a retired senior non-commissioned officer. Bill's your email address, sir.
It's Dale.Corey.
DALE dot
COREY at Comcast.net.
I want to get with you on.
I'll delete that
stuff.
before I post it online.
Sure.
No, we're not gonna post it
And
online.
I will be happy, like I said, to come out here and if you would like me to do. I feel strongly that I'm retired from the Army. I'm just Army retired, and I've been a big supporter of veterans ever since I retired here. So when I got in and they told me about this veteran program, I said, yeah, let's go get them. Because taking care of our veterans is big prime time stuff to me, and I know it should be for everybody else too. They're foundation of our country. The first thing about the start of the board is just to make sure you fill it out correctly. Make sure, very basics of it, you got your chapter name on every page, front page. It's really easy to understand this thing and fill it out. Don't need a lot of explanation on how to do that. It's pretty self-explanatory. When you start getting into some of this other stuff, where they got the different little, I call them tabs because of the Americanism report. They're really not tabs. I guess they're paragraphs or some first sections, however you want. Most of this thing is designed around support from the VA, the Veterans Administration. That's how this whole program was designed originally. And we've been slowly expanding out on it. So you'll see some areas there where you can say, well, it gets a little bit gray, but it's still a lot that can be done here. If you have a VA hospital in your area, then you can really use sections 1 and 2. We don't have a VA hospital. We got a VA clinic. But we can't do much as far as 1 and 2 go. This is for people that become, you get on the hospital committees or you go in as a volunteer in the VA hospital. So that's a good place if you've got one of those hospitals in your area. Take advantage of it.
Unfortunately, right now, things are totally on hold.
Well,
But
that's the one thing about the veteran program. With this pandemic, it's really kind of killing us. Although I haven't let it stop me completely. And
yeah, well, we were able to run our, for the 59 consecutive years we've run bingo at the VA hospital in Hampton.
And that's a good start.
And the thing of it is, we did our bingo in January, and we usually have 4 people. And I tell you what, I'm the comic relief. I'm the caller. I run then after that, so the VA is trying to figure some way of getting the volunteers back to helping, because I had an email from them saying, are you willing? The VA is very, I'm saying this, that they are very dependent on their volunteers, and they're pretty much desperate for the volunteers to be able to come back.
Right, but there's no problems with that involved. Part of the problems are some of the VA hospitals are not real good at going after their volunteers.
Hampton is. I'll tell you what, they are.
Hampton might be, but Martinsburg isn't, for instance. That's the closest one to me. I'm always in the dogfight with them. So it just depends on which one you're close to. And I do know that some of the other ones are easier to get into or not. But all you can do is keep knocking on doors. You can't quit just because I said no the first time. I always said, you can't say no if I don't ask you. But they also can't say yes. So I always keep asking and stuff like that. But anyway, these first couple ones here, that's what that's pretty much about. These are not big point getters for you, even if you live by a VA hospital the first 2, unless you can staff the hospital, you're not going to get a ton of points out of that stuff. When you get into 3, this is one you don't need a VA hospital. Shut-ins, veterans. If you know World War II veterans, Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans, the Middle Eastern veterans, any of them that are, shut in for whatever reason, you can visit them. And there's a lot of them. I know you can still visit them. You may have to wear a face mask and socially distance. They may not let you pass the front door, but you might at least go up and say something to them. you can go visit these people. And they love to have it. Now, senior living facilities. I've got real strong programs with a couple of my senior living facilities. One of them, I've been going down there for 5 years, twice a month until this pandemic hit. Having a veteran lunch. Let me tell you, they love it. They love it. And they got to the point they don't like to let me go at times. And so then when this pandemic hit, they said we couldn't go in there. Now they've even worked out ways where we've gone in there with Zoom programs. I've done Zoom with them. So the senior living facilities are great places to get in there with these people that are veterans, that are shut-ins. And of course, you get other benefits by helping out other seniors too, because a lot of seniors, they're just chomping at the bit to have somebody come and visit. So that is a very good one to get involved in there. Now, yes, you can go visit them at the hospital if they will start letting you in. I don't know if any of the hospitals have started doing it yet. I know that Martinsburg, they haven't quite let people start going in yet. But some of the nursing homes are letting people do that. In fact, yesterday I went into one of the nursing homes. I did a Constitution Day thing. Of course, we all had to wear masks. We dressed up in our colonial attire. We walked in there and we did readings from the Constitution. Did good things. Picked up all kinds of good crazy points there. Because we got to go in and visit some veterans, which we get our veteran points in there, getting the spark up. We got Americanism points because we were out doing an event presenting the Constitution for Constitution Day. So you can use a lot of these programs where you can kind of double dip between the Americanism and Starkle War. And at any time, if you've got a comment, just feel free to interrupt. It ain't going to faze me at all. Okay, each give personal, personal care. That one there, and then the same thing, the dollars and this stuff, the donations. If you can't get into these hospitals and donate them, then these are not going to do you good. Where we make our money on this one, for our chapter, we've got the Kernstown Clinic up there. Last year, because of the people in our chapter, we donated over 1,000 books to them. Over 1,000 books. And that's every time somebody finishes reading the book, say, give it to us. We'll take it down. But right now, we can't take them in there. So we'll be way down on. Now, I did happen to take 300 of them in before the pandemic hit, so I got that going. But, so that's a good one to really make some really quick points, as these donations and stuff. The same thing when they talk up there about personal care items in the hospital. A lot of people travel around to hotels, they pick up all that little goodies that they get from the bathrooms and that stuff, and they've never used them. Take them down to the VA hospital, say, would you guys like these personal care items? They'll take them a lot.
Now, does that mean that I'm asking these questions because as I transition from president, I'm going to be working in some other areas.
Sure.
And probably with the veterans. In other words, that we under part 5, when we do our bingo games, we give cash prizes. Does that fall under 5 also?
No.
I'm asking.
I'm not telling you no.
Yeah.
What would that fall under?
That would be more under, you see, because when you do this with the VABS projects, that's very specific. Those are Veterans Administration, Veteran Service projects.
Okay.
The bingo is not considered a project for that. And the coupon book, they want you to buy those specific coupon books that the VA puts out. So that would.
Yeah, well,
That's not going to fall into that category.
Okay, well.
How do you document that?
Which one?
Say you give away 5 shampoo.
And then, if you turn around up there, it comes up there. Each one donated is like one. So if you get one of those little shampoo things, it's 1 point for each one you do. With the magazines and the books,
receipt or anything.
No, that comes later if you do one of the other ones. We have these high dollar things like TVs and stuff like that. Then you have to do that. And clothes, you don't even really have to. Some of the VA hospitals will take clothes at some time. The one up in Martinsburg, they've been really crazy with us. We went up there one day, we hauled in there like 3 big garbage bags full of clothes. We went in there a couple of weeks later with a suit, and they wouldn't take it. So it depends on how their loan closet is going, how they're able to get rid of things. But so it always does well to call them and see, are you taking things now? Ask them if they're taking donations. And that's the best way to do that. But, things can also go if you've got retirement homes and, I'm not sure where we've got the military retirement homes. I know we got one in Washington, D.C., and I think there's another one in Virginia somewhere. But at any rate, those things will count for you, giving that kind of stuff out there. Now 7, here's where you can pick up a lot of good points. Veteran outings, or a party that includes veteran patients. I mean, how many veterans we got here at this whole, and I'm talking about the whole conference here. When we all got together for dinner, and you were sitting down at the table, if you counted up the veterans that you had right there in that immediate area that you were interrelating with, that you were interacting with, that falls into this category here. Most of us sitting at tables with 5 people or less. So if all 5 were veterans there, or if you had just one veteran there, then you qualify for a veteran outing because you were out there having a meal with them. Does that stretch it a little bit? Yes, it is, but the idea is interaction with veterans. If you go, just say you decide you got a buddy, let's go to McDonald's and get a hamburger. He's a veteran? But he's not a veteran patient. He's not a what? It says or. It says or veteran patient. Read that word, it says or. It's like, things that we run into, like Charles and Mike. They go to dinner. Well, Mike's going to get points, veteran points, because Charles is a veteran. But Charles is not going to get it, because Mike's not. Now, if Mike drives, then he's going to get mileage because he was driving a veteran. So sometimes we have that. There's the one guy in our chapter that hangs out, a real good, very good close friend of mine, Sean Kerrigan. I'm always telling him, John, you need to drive, buddy, because he's not a veteran. And he said, well, I don't care so much about points. I said, look, it's not necessarily about points that you're getting, it's the points that the chapter's getting. Because here again, this is a reflection of what we're doing for SAR and how we're going about treating the veteran program, which has got pretty high priority, within SAR. So I encourage people, I said, even if you don't want the points for yourself, because, what's the advantage of getting points for start for yourself? It's the service to veterans now. Get 5,000 points in 5 years, you're qualified for the service to veterans now. And you'd be surprised how fast it can build if you start doing it and start counting. I'll give you an idea. I earned mine in 1 year because of doing all of those visits twice a month, plus all the things that I do with my friends that are veterans. So you can do it. You want to get your Oakley cluster, you only need 3,000 points. Makes it even easier. So we got a couple of people in our chapter. It's always a joke with poor Mark Robinson about Brett and I, because we can pull in 3,000 points in a year real quick because of all the stuff that we do with the veterans and going out doing stuff. They're fairly easy to attain. Sir?
In the calendar year.
Yes.
So if you did it, you didn't count them in the last few years, that really doesn't start counting this year.
Well, you need them in 5 years.
Within a 5-year span.
You get 5,000 points within 5 years. I'm just kidding. I happen to do it in a calendar year.
We have a few chapter members I know have done things, replaying, that bingo, that kind of stuff that I don't believe we've ever done counting individually. So
We turn in the information for the VA hospital and the Race Across America, we turn into Ken.
but we haven't been turning in. So
I don't know. Ken's been,
Gary, we'll talk.
Well, I've got a little worksheet that I use that I will.
So for individuals,
Happy to give you
compatriots,
guys.
right?
And this is what I worked on. To get the individuals to give to me, and actually what I tell them is, because I try to maintain it through the year, just like the Americans report. I said, I'd like you to give it to me at least every month. Now, what I do, if I'm out, I do an after-action report for everything I do with anybody that's within the SAR. So I go home, I'm going to be doing a big after-action report here. But let's say Charles and I decided we're going to go out and get something to eat. In fact, we did it when we were down in Richmond the last time together. He went to lunch. So when I got home, part of my after-action report, veteran outing with Charles James. I got it right there. Yeah, but
Starting to roll the points up in your head, are you, Charles?
it's keeping track of the stuff. Just getting in the habit of maintaining it as you go along. Here again, getting everybody involved and used to doing it.
Let me ask you a millennial question. Is there an app for that?
Is there what?
An app for that?
That's what my.
You know what I mean? Like a little app on your phone you can
I
track.
said that's over my head.
Yeah,
That's what
that'd be fun.
Yes, for sure. Okay, special observances. This is the stuff where, like I was talking about the Constitution Day that we went out. That's considered a special observance. And your chapter is the chapter gets credit for this, the individual does not get credit for it. See? So if you go down to, and have a special observance, then the chapter can say do it, but you have to be the sponsoring chapter. You have to be the sponsor. Okay? I sponsored that Constitution Day yesterday at that senior living facility. I get to put that in here, number of events right there, and I got 50 points. Now, we sponsored Constitution Day at the Mount Hebron Cemetery on Sunday because it's Constitution Week. Now, I've got 2 events. I got 100 points. It's amazing how these points can start jumping in if you start adding them up there. If your chapter does events around every one of these special holidays, you're automatically going to get points here, and you're going to get points over on the Americanism as well.
So it counts. So it counts on this too.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you sir, but I will do that.
I'm a retired senior health commission officer.
It's an auto response.
Well,
I could say yes, ma'am.
There you go. That'll confuse you.
I could tell you a family story about our great grandfather in the Civil War. But anyway, so we are according to some guy named Weiler. Some guy named Weiler said that our chapter is considered the sponsor of the Yorktown Day.
Okay.
Nice.
So I just found that out last year. I just found that out last year to stick the Americanism report, and there it is, Yorktown Day. I will be getting with you later to glean as much information as possible and see, how much that we're already doing that our chapter's already doing that.
Okay. Yorktown Day. So you got the big one there. Last year, prior to going down to Yorktown, okay, I was down there last year. Prior to going, I went to 3 senior living facilities and did presentations on Yorktown.
So you just reaching out to the administrators of the facilities?
Usually the activity director.
Okay.
Get a hold of the activity director.
You find them
I see
pretty
it's on your head,
receptive.
Randy. Do you connect with yours down there?
Yeah.
You
Excellent.
guys find them pretty receptive.
So the activity you did, because it was related to Yorktown Day, you got credit for that.
Yeah.
Not just being at Governor Nelson's grave.
No. I see. The only thing I could count being there was I laid the wreath out, so I got to count that for viewing the wreath.
Yeah.
We got to count for having chapter members there. And
But as far as
the Stark Award goes, I get credit. You'll see down here special observance for people that attend them. There's places as you get down in here. Did you attendance at these special observances?
But the fact that you also were in charge of a presentation that had to do with Yorktown Day.
I sponsor
You sponsored, so it doesn't just have to be
at Yorktown.
me
It doesn't have to be
at Yorktown
No.
or our chapter at York. It could be if let's say I went to Minowood Senior Home, and I came in period attire and I talked about Yorktown Day and the importance of Yorktown Day, then that would be an addition.
Let me ask you this question. Does it matter if there's veterans in the audience and how many?
No, this year is special observance.
Yeah, no, so if I'm at this, I'm thinking about the context of the senior living center. When you're doing that presentation,
I do it for everybody.
it doesn't matter whether there's veterans in the audience or not.
No.
Okay.
When I do my veteran lunches, then we get into separate rooms. And you're doing veteran lunches with yours, Randy? Yeah, we go into separate rooms and we have these lunches. Now, when I get these things, these holiday things, we get everybody out. And they even called us to come down there on Memorial Day in spite of the pandemic. You were up for that one, weren't you, Charles? And so what we had, the closest people to us from the home were 30 feet away. The farthest ones away were 150 feet. But we had, microphones all set up and everything. So that counted in a couple of places for us. Counted in Americas, and I counted right here. Because we were doing special observance. A lot of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory if you start looking at it and say, how can this apply to me? What can I do? And then if you got some questions, then you say, well, I need to turn around and find out. So now that I'm the state veterans guy, you're always welcome to call me and say, well, this qualified in there, you know, I'll get you an answer one way or the other. I probably will know most of the time. I'm not gonna say I know it all, because I don't. I had to send a question to, see this a little bit later down here, to Scott Gilmer, who is the national guy for veterans. But yeah, that's a really good place to pick up points, is these things around special observances. And if you can get guys going out in the colonial attire, because if you look down there at B, just a little bit farther down, it says attendance at special observances. That's where you get the number of members that count, how many people you have. Well, yesterday at our event there, we had 4 of us. So when we get up here in section A, we got credit for having the observance. We get down to section B, we got credit for having 4 of us there. And there, you don't even necessarily have to be in colonial attire, but you will look down there, you get more points if you are. Now, as we're moving on down, Wounded Warrior Program. Get credit for that. Giving certificates and challenge points. I'm not going to say I have a problem with the Wounded Warrior Program, but I do, because the way they've limited it to, they've limited people that they hand it out to. Korean War veterans are not eligible for the Wounded Warrior Program. Neither are Vietnam veterans. It was designed for the people in the Middle East. Afghanistan, wars, all those wars that have happened up more recently, for the Wounded Warrior Program was designed around. I have an issue with that, but then, you know, I didn't make the rules, I didn't develop the program. But it's a good program. So if you got some, get you hold some of those challenge coins, and you think you know people who have been injured, get it to them. Don't want to read into that like that. And because you can get it, then you give them presentations, you can give them certificates. Okay, Operation Ancestor Search. Now here's another one. I got a little bit of issue with it, but I can't fight it because I didn't develop it. Operation Research. You go out and help the veteran find his genealogy, and you get points for it. But if you read into the program, they have to be tied in with the VA hospital. And that program was designed for use at the VA hospital and in conjunction with the SAR.
You know what you get
So,
the VA hospital?
So at turns like this, if I come up here to Charles and say, Charles, my friend, let me help you out with your genealogy. The only thing I get out of that is a good thank you, and he has to buy me a beer. That's what I get for it. Can't get anything from this stuff here. But he was in a VA hospital, and I get credit for it.
So that's where we've had a challenge. And I know I've worked with our local VA in Hampton Hospital. 57, 58 years we've been doing bingo with them. And I've approached them on this project, and I keep getting, you know, dug in career person indifference. We got to wait. We got to get it okay with IT. We'll see about this. And you never hear back from them. It's just a nightmare to do that.
They've got to be either
Surely
VA.
someplace though they would get credit for the bingo.
Excuse me?
Surely there would be some place in here that would get credit for running bingo.
That can be counted as a veteran outing. Outing, a veteran outing. So when they're doing their bingo games, if they've got 4 people, then it's in the outing 1 to 10, they get 10 points for it. The last bingo I helped with up in Martinsburg, we had 25 in there. So we fell into the next category, actually. So yes, you get that, you can count that as a veteran outing. But yeah, this Operation Ancestor Research, I think it's a good, Operation Ancestor Search is a good program if they would only expand it. And I know I've suggested it to them a couple of times, and I'm going to suggest it again because I just never quit suggesting things. Sometimes they get tired of me. But because I'm telling them, I said, so other veterans are not important. Well, what they're saying is it gives these guys that are in the hospital something to do and helps them look forward to it. I said, well, there's other veterans out there. Like you said, you've got a disabled one living in the house. Why don't they count? But that's my argument. Hopefully we'll get to move that forward at some point in time on that there. But that's what the Operation Ancestor Search is. So if you are around one of those facilities, you can do it, but you do have to get it broke into with their hierarchy going through the SAR and through them to get it in there. I mean, it's all clear around volunteers.
And then Ancestry. Get all 3 of them lined up.
Ancestry is not the answer to a lot of stuff. Yeah.
No, I mean, as far as just getting it lined up to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Special observance attending with other veteran organizations. Very similar to Partners in Patriotism.
So if I participate in a program with my American Legion post or my VA post, I would still count there.
Yeah.
Because, I belong to both the
That's
local American Legion, both my American Legion post and my VA, my VFW posts are active with the veterans programs.
Yes.
So if I can start getting active with them and start participating, then our chapter gets points with that too.
I'm also in the VFW and the American Legion. And so when I go to some of these things, I'm pushing a lot of buttons there, making a lot of check marks here, getting involved in these things. I'm going to be doing a flag burning, a flag retirement ceremony in November. Getting AMVETS to come over, got the American Legion, VFW, getting the Boy Scouts involved. Wrapping up a lot, just to come right down in here. And I will have a lot of veterans up there. The last one I had was in June, around Flag Day. So yeah, that's a real good way to get points. Start working hand in hand with the veteran organizations to do things. But you got to make sure that somehow the SAR is mentioned in there and that you're helping the sponsor. That's the key to that. It's just like the media. I can tell you a little bit about media stuff. What do you think, Charles? The key is getting the SAR out there in lights. And that's one of the things they want with part of the stuff here too. Okay, marking the Revolutionary Patriot Grade. Now, there's a little slight difference here over the Americanism. Americanism report, you can get 600 points for marking grade if you're a sponsor. You can only get 400 here, or 200 here. You can get 300 there. You can do 6 for the Americanism. You can only do 4 for start. I don't know why that is, but that's the way they've got it designed anyway. So, but if you are the sponsoring chapter for a grade marking, you got 50 points right there. And also you got down here attendance of the Revolutionary War grade marking. Now here again, this here is just like the Americanism. It's primary chapter members. Okay, we did a grade marking on 5 September up in Front Royal. We had 20, I think about 21 people there, I believe it was, something like that. But of those, the 21, I think, golly, how many did we have that were out of chapter? I think I had 13 of my chapter members. So I got to count 13 here. But see, these other guys like Ken Morris and that, they got to count on theirs because they were attending one. They can't count for that grade marking, but they can account for attendance in a grade. That's where you have to look at the difference there. So, but anytime that these guys that would come up there and visit us at ours, like, when Charles and Mike come up, they come up very often too. They get to count on their Americanism report and their start awards that they attended a grade marking. Now, if I go to their place, then they get to count that for having the marking, but I get to count attendance. So that's a good way to do it. Now, the easiest single way to get any kind of points for the veterans is the next one. Flags. Oh my gosh. 200-point max is what you can get both here and in America. We regularly put out over 500 flags because we think that's the thing to do. Holidays, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Flag Day, Veterans Day. Get your chapter members to go out there. They can get those little 3x5 flags, and that counts. Go out to the cemetery, start sticking them down there with the veterans' graves. You cannot find any easier way to get veteran points than putting those flags on the grave.
What
Any
number?
cemetery. Oh, that's down there at C, 12C.
Oh.
Now, you can also do Wreaths Across America if you want, but it's not as easy as just getting the flags and taking them out. Yeah. PRS. Patriot Research System. Question.
when you do that, do you have to seek the approval of the cemetery?
You need to know some of your cemeteries you're not allowed to put any flags. So you don't want to go put them in there. We have up there Mount Hebron, they like us, we went up there and we put in gray pipe so that when they come around the mow, they don't cut the flags down and stuff like that. You know, we put scone to it. I took gray conduit, cut it down into 18-inch lengths, pounded it down in the ground right next to the headstone. And we just go stick the flags. So they don't mind if we do that. There was another cemetery that we tried to get into in Shenandoah. They don't want anything in there, so we can't even take one in. But there are enough cemeteries around that you can do that, especially if you know any of the ones like those of us who live out in the valley. I mean, I don't know so much you guys live in this high density area. We got all these little small off the beaten track cemeteries. Go around and stick flags in them.
So on any, for veterans,
Say what?
any cemetery, as long
As long as
you,
they're veterans.
as long as you can identify them as a veteran.
Right.
And if the headstone says for veterans.
Yeah, well, that's what
If they're VA
Yeah.
stones, it makes it easy. And then you'll start to know which cemeteries you can go back to over and over again, because some of the cemeteries are covered by the Boy Scouts, the Masons, the Legion, the different things like that. But that is the easiest single place to get points for 200 points.
but
Okay, the Patriot Grave Registry. They're talking about
Greenlawn.
the Patriot Research System there. Okay, now, if you're familiar with that, that's where all our information is about our patriots up there at National. Now, the thing about this here is you cannot send an update to a current registered grave. It has to be a new registration to get points here. I have asked them to change that. I said because currently I'm working with the graves too up there, and I'm working with helping get all of the information updated. There is so much information out there that's not updated. And I said, we're updating a veteran's grave. Why can't we do credit for it? But that has to be voted on by their committee that is actually meeting tomorrow. And I don't know if they'll address that. I asked them to do that. But for right now, if you're going to send something into the grave registry to get credit here, you have to do a new grave. To get it on the Americanism, you have to send in a biography. Updating the grave up there. You can send in one that's already there, but you have to send in a biography to get credit Americanism. Here you have to do a new grave or a new registration. Participation in a veteran's funeral. Big stuff here. Here's another one I come across the question with. So, all of us, unfortunately, we're kind of getting up in the time where we got more of our friends and compatriots and compadres are passing on. If you go to their funeral, just going to it, you get points for going to the funeral. If you look down there, it says attendance. 5 points for each time you attend a veteran's funeral. Okay? If you're a pallbearer, if you do a reading, a dedication, or the bugler, you get 20 points. I called up National. I said, hey, wait a minute. What about if you're the color guard? It's not laid out here. If you do a color guard at a veteran's funeral, you count that up there under the reading dedication. If you fire in a musket squad, or if you're with the VA and you fire with their rifle squad, you can count that as part of that there. So now, if it's a person on active duty, you just double your point totals. That's the next category down. Just doubling that. So I know too many people will go to these veteran funerals and they don't think about this thing here, but it is there, and that's one way to do it. They say, you know, you feel right about it. Hey, we're supporting a veteran by going out there. 3 weeks ago, founding president of our chapter passed away. 92 years old, Al White. World War II, Korean War veteran. He specifically, because he and I were good friends, asked me the week before he died. He says, I want you guys involved in my funeral. I want you guys there. And I want the chaplain to conduct the service. And we showed up and we did that. But here again, we're getting credit for it. And that's the way he would want it. So, you know, make sure you keep track of it. Okay, donating new or used men's clothing, and then all new working items. Here again, those are fairly self-explanatory. That's in there, gives you a little bit of, explanation about, if you do use clothing and that stuff, it's suggested by consignment or thrift shop pricing. What it would be for that. Donation of new items for like TVs and stuff, it's got to be donated within 30 days of purchase, and that's where you have to have these. Okay, that's a real quick down and dirty overlook at the start. See, the biggest ticket to the start is involvement with members of the chapter. Get them involved. I started off by saying, guys, what I want each one of you to do is put one flag on one grave. Well, that was pretty easy because most guys would go out there and was like, I'm here, I might as well do 10 or 15. Now, I also got our chapter to start buying 100 flags a year to give to people to take out. Now, myself, I buy 500 flags and just give them to people and say, take them out. That's a personal donation on my part. I'm not saying everybody else should do that. That's just me personally. So it's really easy for me to turn around and say, here, take these flags out.
So you've got a point of contact for a good price.
I just get on Amazon.
Oh, okay. You've got somebody special.
You can buy 500 flags for $113. So I just do it and then I just give it to them because that's one of the things that I do. That's one of my personal things to do. But I do something a little bit different. Vietnam is my war, like Charles, and I don't know if the rest of you were in Vietnam or not, but when I put a flag on the Vietnam veterans, he gets a big flag. I do a Rev War, they get a Betsy Ross. Everybody else gets what flag I have. But the point is we're putting flags out there. Now, I also told these people, I said, guys, I need some of you to come and help me with these senior living facilities. How about if you got a veteran living on your street? If you got some guy down there that's a Korean War vet or a World War II vet or something like that, or a Vietnam vet who is, handicapped and stuff, go visit them. Over and say hi to them. This stuff all counts. This is how you build these programs, by getting people starting to get involved. And once they get started, it starts getting easier and easier. Like the guys that belong to the Korean War Veteran Society up there, they belong to that thing. They have those guys, there's like 5 of them that go to breakfast like 2-3 times a week. Those are all veteran outings. They didn't even know that. And I said, yeah, count them. Put them in there. And one guy belonged to the chapter for 3 years, hadn't had any veteran points, and all of a sudden, what does he do? It takes him a couple of years, and he's got his service to veteran because he's been going to breakfast 3 times a week with these friends in the war. So get your people out there, get them involved. Now, I was telling you, I do have this this form here. This is something that I worked out. I'll give you all one, and you can do what you want to with it. But I tell folks, I said, hey, fill this out, take copies of it, and give it to me. I'll figure out the points if you want me to.
I'm already going to be
President, how did you, state magazines out to the VA, start being periodic?
Having these programs.
Excuse me, just a minute. I have to fix you to do that. I'm a little bit hard to hear.
State magazines out to the VA.
Yes.
And,
Well, see, there are things that we're doing that we don't maybe take advice.
how many points do you get from that? One
Because
for
we
each
just
magazine.
want to have.
You got to be kissed.
One for each magazine.
We also participated in veterans parades, decorate the car, about situations. How many points would you get for that?
Well, I will be talking.
And plus you get your partners.
Well,
Now,
I'm
yes, they are.
Oh, yeah, we have big.
well, at the meeting.
Veterans of
Okay, so we
I
got.
asked Rick and Ken to serve with me on that, and I want to talk to them
Yeah,
about this. About, including,
You're right.
Chairman Ken might find a grave.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year. I can only,
Now, here's another thing that I do. For World War II vets, Korean War vets, and a lot of Vietnam or have sport, if there's a disabled vet, I give them a certificate of appreciation.
Yeah.
And I wrote something
I'll
that's
talk
special
about
for them. I got those blank
Yeah,
certificates.
which one.
So I don't just use a regular certificate, I put in
Well,
everything.
I'll work
for
it out,
service.
yes.
I got this little standard photo that I put in there. I can take it out and have a nice little service, a nice little presentation. Well, here we're racking up all kinds of points there too. I'm going to visit these shut-in guys and stuff like this. We're giving them a certificate. We're picking up points on, category 12 there in the Americanism.
Oh,
We're giving them certificates and these guys love it. They love it. On Veterans Day, when I go down.
Just whatever day we
Take out
decide.
kids, I give them.
tentatively.
I think I got some of them in here that and, it's depending on how your chapter's doing and, what they're doing with their, I buy these. Each chapter divided within,
And I found out
and I
how
take down these,
the rest of the channel.
I give them these guys. I don't
If
give
you
them
order
orders,
a bunch of
they're
stuff
good.
online,
We got to take shipping. I get on Amazon.
I'm talking about. Yeah,
Take them out to them. For Veterans Day, I won't be able to do it this year the way the pandemic is. But what I do is I will get the poppies from the VFW, because I'm in the VFW. I get the poppies, I take it down to all the ladies that are in the building. Build up this goodwill with everybody that's in there, and then it's a stress layer will fill on from there. Well, that's pretty much what I got to tell you about the veterans.
Have you guys-
How many points do you accumulate before you get the award? 5,000?
5,000 for the first one, 3,000 for opening clusters.
And that's for a chapter.
No, that's
just
for
all
individuals.
those spots used.
What about for the chapter?
The chapter, well, that's not, now you're in competition, just like the American. There's the category, 0 to 50, or 0 to 49, 50 to 99, 100 to 199, and 200 and above for start. And you compete in the state, and then, well, actually, there's really not a state competition. You probably ought to try to develop one, but you compete nationwide within your size chapter. And there's some pretty healthy competition out there, but, it's amazing how fast you can jump up when you get everybody working. Like, so we probably, if I'm trying to remember how many large chapters there are, which we're going to very large next year, because it's your population, your membership on 1 January, each calendar year is what it's based on. I think we were probably jumping in the 7,000 to 8,000 point range for several years. When I started pushing all this stuff, and I started developing this, I think the least I've had in 4 years is 13,000. And I scared 30 last year. But that's here again, because it's not just me doing it. It's everybody getting out there and getting them all involved and getting people believing in it. And I talk about it every chapter meeting. I don't know how often you guys chapter meet, but we meet 9 meetings a year. I know some chapters do once a quarter or something like that. So we do 9 a year. And like I said, if you want me to come down and talk to your chapters or anything, I'd be happy to do it. You guys just let me know when it is. I'm a tad bit busy. So, but I am, if you give me enough notice, I'm more than welcome.